Trump probably went a little far on the deep end by saying that we're going to add insult to injury by charging them tariffs because they're polluting our air. One, we should ridicule them for it because they're not taking care of their own business, but we need to fly some planes over there with some water and help them out a little bit.
Yeah, so Trump wants to tariff the smoke, and the Democrats are trying to get them signed up to vote. Welcome to another edition of Uneducated Men. This is number 13. Nate, welcome back. We missed you last week. We had a podcast with me and Bobby, and we're glad that you can join us or rejoin us here for this one.
Yeah, she ran a bit long last week, but a lot of good content.
Yeah, it was a fun time. And there's a lot to go over.
I'm assuming our friend Babo got a bunch of stuff wrong that we can correct on this episode.
He got a few things wrong. We got to bring him back on because I got a lot of people reached out to me. Who's this Bobby guy? What's his last name? Can I look him up? Because he talked about Fox Sports and knowing Ryan Leaf, and he talked about narrating a History Channel episode or series. So we have to bring him back on. Maybe he can tell his story and we can push him, because he came on and he was like, I'm not a liberal. But by the end of the show, it was like, yeah, I love taxes and I don't care if my roads are beaten up, and Bernie Sanders. And so I think we bring him back on. We'll get him going a little more. And he can kind of tell who he is. He's
definitely a closet lib. I don't care what he says.
He came out.
In more ways than one.
Not his first time, I guess you would say. So let's take a look back. We got a big show. Nate, you talked about reverse engineering Coca-Cola recipe. Was that something you were able to accomplish this week?
Didn't even look into it. Okay. That was a complete fabrication of what I was going to do.
Yeah, I didn't think you'd be able to. But I did look into Coca-Cola, and there's a lot of people that know that Coca-Cola originally had cocaine in it, the alkaloid cocaine, about 8 milligrams. And people go, wow, that's a lot. It's not. A typical line of cocaine has about 100 milligrams. But what they don't know is where they got the caffeine from. And they got the caffeine from a cola nut. And the cola nut grows in Africa. Can you guess which country it grows in?
Friends from Zimbabwe grow the cola nuts? All right.
It does. They don't use it anymore. Everything's went to synthesize now. But in the beginning, it was cocaine and the cola nut. That's how you got Coca-Cola.
Did I ever tell you I did a tour of the Coca-Cola headquarters last year in Atlanta?
No, you did not. Was it?
Yeah, it was all right. So they do talk about the recipe and not giving it out. They do this big tour, and then it ends with you get to try samples of a number of sodas that they have on the top floor, which I'm not a big soda drinker, so I did not partake. But yeah, it was interesting. It was pretty big. You have to pay to get inside of it. It's not even like a complimentary thing to...
You had to pay to do the tour of the Coke factory? They just don't show it off as like
one would think, right? But no, it is an attraction in Atlanta. Not a whole lot of other things to do there. You'd think they'd want people to come in there for free, or even pay you for that matter, just to get addicted to their Coke.
Yeah. Well, fun fact about Coke. Originally, like I said, it used cocaine. Or
what's not fun about Coke? That's the question.
Different Coke. I think we're talking about two separate things. So Coca-Cola. So Coca-Cola originally used cocaine to give you a mild uplift, not enough to make you bonky like it would on regular Coke. They have a special exemption that allows them to import coca leaves. It's illegal in the United States to import coca leaves. They have a company in New Jersey that then extracts the cocaine alkaloid from the coca leaves and then gives it to Coke, and they make the recipe with the cola leaves. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. They then sell that cocaine to people in the United States. There is legal medical uses for cocaine. There's a government agency, the DEA, oversees it, and they sell it. And then they say whatever's left over of the purest cocaine in the world, because it's not cut like it is in Colombia, is then destroyed. I don't want to go down a conspiracy theory here, but you hear New Jersey, the CIA funding the crack rock epidemic in New York down the street, and you're like, I wonder where they got all of this fresh, uncut cocaine from.
Should we talk about Hunter Biden again?
They said they burned less the 4 years than...
I'm guessing some of that pure Coca-Cola cocaine found its way into the White House that our buddy Hunter, I know you can hear us. We know you left that baggie.
It's funny you say that because he's been on Twitter, and I've talked about him recently. He's stated numerous times that wasn't my cocaine. I do not like cocaine. I like crack cocaine, which is a completely different high and a completely different usage of it, right? What's smoked versus snorted. So we'll see. It'd be funny if we find out it was actually Joe's to help him get through some of his press conferences. Like he's all pumped up, and then personal experience tells me, I don't know.
I wouldn't.
Okay. All right. So Bobby kept calling you Nano. And for the people that are listening, they don't know who that is. Nano is your nickname growing up. It is your gay porn name. So when he referred to Nano, he was talking to you.
Hold on a second. How do you know I was in gay porn?
I've seen it.
I figured you did.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So Nano, which I'm probably not alone out there, and I know I'm not because a neighboring town also had a Nano because our first names are Nathaniel. Now, a toddler trying to say the name Nathaniel comes out as Nano. So now if you have parents or relatives that like to pick on you because of your speech impediment, they're also going to call you Nano just to kind of rub it in a little bit. So since I was 2 years old, let's say, when I started speaking, I have been known as Nano, which is ironic because nothing on me is microscopic.
Sure. Listen, I have a poor name. It's also my pickleball name. It's Dirk Dinkler, Dinkler, Dirk Dinkler. I'm going to get Ernie Ed to call me that. All right, so we talked about Salsa Verde Doritos, or Bobby said they were life-changing. I had them. They're actually pretty good. I would put them up there, but they're definitely not better than Tapatio or the OG of Cool Ranch. So I don't dislike them, and I would recommend them if somebody wants something with a little bit of kick. Not as great as he made them out to be.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. It happens. We talked about chicken factories, and you said the technical name for somebody who would remove feathers from a chicken was called a union feather puller. That is not correct. They were called a chicken plucker, which I think you were called many times back in Roseau.
Now, if you take out the P and add a different letter, maybe. But no. I didn't realize that you actually believed me on that one. I was kind of playing around.
Okay. Well, they no longer have chicken pluckers. They have a machine called a pinner. A robot does it now, and robots do everything.
So it's a rotary, I guess, cylinder with a bunch of rubber, I guess you could call it fingers that stick out, and you just kind of put it around like it's a molder, or what's the word I'm looking for, a lathe doing woodwork. So you just sit there and you hold the chicken or the turkey and it plucks all the fingers as you rotate it around.
Sounds like a tour that the WNBA players might like.
Hey-o.
Bobby said that people walk in the middle of the streets in California and asked if that is normal. No, that's not normal. But we also here in most cities don't allow tweaker homeless camps on the sidewalk, and it's not less safe to walk in the middle of the street than it is to walk on the sidewalk. So no, Bobby, that is not a normal occurrence anywhere else but in your crime-ridden city.
Yeah, Lib.
We talked about the Jets and who would the Jets quarterback be? It would be Geno Smith going into training camp. They did draft a quarterback, but it wasn't with one of the first two picks. They picked up a guy named Cabe Klubnik. You might remember him. He had a huge 2024 year that led to him being in the Heisman Trophy talk to start the year, but due to injuries and a bad Clemson year, he fell off. He's got some solid numbers and maybe potentially, but this year it is all Geno Smith.
So which helps fortify my pick of the Jets being in last place because Geno Smith is Geno trash on the field.
Yeah, I picked the Minnesota Vikings. I think I'm going to change my pick for two reasons. One, this whole bit came from Little PP Eric, who used to sell PP machines, and the Miami Dolphins, and he told me that he's going to tell me all the reasons why Miami wasn't the worst team. He didn't tell me. We did the bit. I called him later on. I was like, hey, you didn't give me any information. He said, I will give you some. Still didn't give me any information. So now I'm going to change my pick to the Miami Dolphins. That's reason one. I'll tell you reason two in a moment. FIFA. We talked a lot about FIFA, but the last thing was, does the stadium take on any charges? Do they pay for anything at all? The concessions or any of the labor? No. FIFA gets all the revenue for everything, and the city takes on all of the cost. And you may think, why is that happening? That's a terrible deal, but the city gets all the tax revenue for everybody that comes in. The restaurants get revenue, beer sales get revenue, hotels get revenue. So there is a win for the host city, and they do take on the cost of hosting.
There is a win for the host city, and tourism obviously is going to be huge. But if the arena still pays out all the costs, so yes, the city is receiving all the kickbacks, but the arena is money out. So what is it in for the arena?
The city actually pays the arena for everything. So they probably have to pay a rent. So there's usually a sports authority, and it's a government body. And I'm sure they get the publicity. MetLife Stadium is where they're going to host this next game. That name is going to be broadcast worldwide. So MetLife's happy. SoFi got to be broadcast worldwide. So there's some wins also for the stadiums.
I don't know, man. I've been in Sports Authority many times. I've never seen one government worker in there.
Did see a lot of WNBA players. The Iron Sheik. Bobby said that Iron Sheik and the Hulk wrestled in 1991. Hulk won the championship. That was not correct. That happened in 1984. That was the first heavyweight championship for Hulk Hogan, starting Hulkamania. Nate, you were a wrestling fan. I was a wrestling fan. Who was your wrestler?
Hold on a second. I do not look forward to being as old as Bobo. If I'm off of an event by 7, 8 years, when that era only lasted like 15 years.
Yeah.
Bobo, come on, buddy. My wrestler, man, this, I think, stems not so much from the ring, but from the cartoon. I like the heel. Rowdy Roddy Piper was my guy.
Okay, all right. There's so many good ones. The Ultimate Warrior was fantastic. Macho Man Randy Savage. That was actually pretty good. impersonation. I should do some voiceovers for Family Guy. But no, it's Hulk. It's Hulk Hogan. He was the greatest. He'd do that little ear thing when he'd get punched in the face and the crowd would go raise, and then he'd get punched in the face again and he'd go. And
I wish you folks could actually see his face doing that. I will say that Hulk was the worst seller, I think, in the WWF at that time, because you could beat the hell out of him and it didn't faze him whatsoever.
Yeah, he just take it. And then his finishing move was still to this day the worst of all time. The atomic leg drop. He just like dropped his leg on top of your chest. It was bad. I'll give you that. But Hulk was just the guy, man. And then I guess there's two parts of my life for wrestling. It was when I was a kid and I was all about it. I found out it was fake and I didn't like it anymore and I was too cool for it. And then Stone Cold Steve Austin came around and I was like, ugh. So that's my wrestling in a pinch. We talked about Dr. Seuss and all the little houses that are on the mountain. I looked into this because my story that I have for the little people actually was in San Diego. But really, I was like, whoa, maybe there's a little people commune. That's not the case. There are these houses, but they're optical illusions because the way that the road goes up and down the mountain and the way that these houses stand on the hillside, it makes them look like they're smaller or bigger or the doors are in different. They're all normal size houses, but people do drive by thinking that they are part of Seussville. It's just something that he bought the house on the top of the hill, and it was kind of a coincidence that the view and the optics of it. But if we have time, I'm going to tell you my midget story.
It's little people.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. But here's the thing. If I do tell the story, when I tell it, I am talking about, I'm going to say this word one last time. I'm talking about the midgets with the big head and the little tiny arms. There's a difference. Bobby said that MLB players are taxed in every state they play. That's technically true. Not all states have income tax, so they're not charged a state tax in Florida, but if they do play in a place like Ohio that has state tax, they have to file an Ohio state income tax return and pay taxes in that state. So Bobby was right, kind of, in that one. I was wrong. I also said that football players were collecting disability in California. There was a gentleman by the name of Brad Culpepper. He played for the Buccaneers and the Bears, I believe. He played 160 games in his career, 6 of them in California, and then filed a $180,000 claim for disability in the state of California due to the pain that he had playing his 10-year career. He later was sued because he went on Survivor and was like running around and doing all that stuff. And they're like, hey, man, I thought you were disabled. And I think he had to pay some of it back. He did receive compensation. I said that I changed my pick from the Minnesota Vikings to the Dolphins for 2 reasons. The second reason is I kind of feel at this point of knowing you for 13 years that I am an honorary Rosenarian, a Roseauite.
A Roseauite, and you are far not even close to being a Roseauite.
I think I can. Listen, I think I could pull a shift at the Polaris factory, get done, go over to the Super One Foods and grab a sixer, throw it in the back of my truck, head over to Jeans, knock down a few soda pops, get out of there after hanging out with the boys, go to the Dairy Queen, get a Blizzard, go home to my Midwest wife, have some tater tot hot dish, and then get into a fight with her when I tell her me and the boys are going to go to a Lake of the Woods and catch some walleye. I think that could be me, and I feel like I am a Roseauarian.
Again, it's a Roseauite. So you've done your research. That was pretty good. Okay. One thing is, in the state of Minnesota, or at least in Roseau County, you cannot buy off sale in any place other than a county-run liquor store. So Super One Foods, unfortunately, does not have a sixer, but the rest you're pretty close on.
So here's the deal. Let's do a little contest. I've listened to you and all of your stories and met some of your friends of the town for the last 13 years. If I can name 20, 25, I'll let you pick, Roseau area people based upon the vicarious Roseau life that you've lived, I think I could be deemed an official Roseau.
I don't know how you come up with 20 or 25 people because I don't even think I remember 20 or 25 people there. So I'll even go 15. If you can name 15 people, I will get you an official Polaris winter jacket.
All right, perfect. Here we go. Let's start off with, I think, the 2 most important people, and that's Big D and RZA. Our first, did I say it wrong?
RZA, yeah, but they are definitely diehard fans. They listen every week.
Yeah, so that's 2. They listened even before Mini Nate, Scooter. So that's 3. I think there's Toe's sisters. Mary, is it Mary and Jen Toe's?
There's Mary's Toe. I don't know any Jen Toe.
Okay, that's 4. We'll go with Mary. So Mary Toe's. Yeah. Without question, my absolute favorite Roseau person, Nathan Lee. And the reason why is he sticks it to the next guy more than anybody I ever met, and that's Mark Borgen. Borgen and Borgen for the people.
Big B, Little Oregon.
There's the Rindy brothers. There's Ian, Elliot, and Jeremy. Can we count Stu Roy?
Stu Roy is not from Roseau. He's been there.
Okay, so not Stu Roy. So what are we at here? I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I think you're at 9.
9.
Even though one's
Obviously,
made up, but we'll go with it. There might be a Jeremy Rindy.
I know Nathaniel Hedlund. I know his sister, Amanda, so that rounds out the Hedlunds. There is David and Mitchell Johnson of Polaris fame. I know those guys very well, good friends of Mitchell created the side-by-side. I'm a big fan of. If anybody knows, I'm out here all the time riding a side-by-side. Talked about Canadians. You're Canadian almost, and there's always the sin. So there's got to be a Swanson, an Erickson, an Olson, right? So I think that gets us close. And if you need...
I mean, you got to be more specific on first names on those three.
Okay, so let's say Tyler Swanson, Sam Erickson. How about Pat Olson, Bro Olson? There's a Waggy. I remember that guy. A Welch we make fun of. Waggy. Yeah. There's a Waggy. There's a Welch that we make fun of.
Papa Peace.
Otto. Can't forget all of our hockey stars. So there's Derek and Dennis Bufflin. There's Neil, Aaron, Paul, Borton. Of course, there's TJ Oshie. And then my favorite of all the names of everybody there, Jack Dick.
Jack Dick played a incredible air guitar.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Jack. All right. Yeah, you rattled off some that I won't think of. So it's official. You are now deemed an official Roseauite. You will be receiving your Polaris jacket.
You know, they named a sports bar after me in Roseau. I don't know if you know that.
I don't know any gay bars up there.
It's called Legends. So now that I'm an official Minnesota Roseauite, I think there's some things that we're going to change, right? I'm going to come in, I'm going to make some changes. So the first thing we're going to do is we're never going to pardon child molesters ever again. Rule number 1 right off the bat.
Okay. I think most people from Roseau County would agree with you.
We're bringing back parties on Lake Minnetonka.
That is for the people. Let's go.
Okay. Let's go. Yeah. We're going to make tater tot hot dish a national cuisine. I'm going to find a way to get it on some menus out here in Arizona.
I'm shocked it isn't already.
We're going to bring back the proud Minnesota state flag, the one that flew high for hundreds of years.
Hundreds might be a bit imaginated, but I agree. We don't need that Somali flag waving underneath the United States flag in Minnesota.
Things we're going to stop doing. We're never going to let Super Bowl winning quarterbacks leave our great team ever again.
Well, that should never be a problem again because we're just going to win Super Bowls.
Okay, that's great. I agree. Yeah, Skol Vikings. And we're going to bring back the Viking guy on the motorcycle.
Thank God, that guy's been gone for way too long.
Yeah, that's it.
He was a lawyer by trade, actually. And
was he really?
Yeah.
He looks like a Minnesota lawyer. Lumberjack's like...
I would not want to argue with him.
No, I guess the whole thing with that was he just wanted more money, and they were like, no. And he was like, I'm the motorcycle guy. And they're like, get out of here. Let's bring him back. I am an official Rosenarian. Roseau, thank you so much, especially to the people that are supportive of us for this show. I can't wait to come out and get the parade that Nate gets every time he goes back.
I'd be shocked if the radio station up there, Wild 102, doesn't call and ask us for an interview live. So Big D, which is on air on Mondays, and her sidekick Bobcat, we'll call you up. We'll do a little show.
Let's get them on. Where do you get beer at? You have to buy it from a state-run store? That's all they sell is beer?
Yeah, it's the county or city municipal liquor store, and it's the only place that sells hard alcohol there. I think the gas stations you can get beer in now, but yeah, the grocery stores you cannot. And also something strange, if you live in Vegas, they don't have slot machines in the grocery stores there.
What?
Yeah.
No.
Super weird.
What do the old ladies do when their husbands?
They cook food and bring it to the church.
Yeah, that sounds fun too. All right. So I'm going to tell you a story and make it this very quick. My daughter has a little friend. We go to her house on the weekends because they like to swim. And the dad's a nice guy, but he's kind of a doofus. And so I look for reasons to kind of get away every once in a while. So last week I was like, hey, anybody want donuts? I'm going to go to Dunkin' Donut. And they're like, yeah, we want donuts. So I go to Dunkin' Donut, I go through the drive-thru, I get 6 donuts. And we could talk about the price of donuts later on. But the kid that's annoyed that I've already showed up because he had to get off his TikTok sends a little device out the window for me to pay. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to hit the little 10% tip for this guy, even though I don't like doing it. And it was 18, 20, and 22% was the tip. And I was shocked. I was mad. And it was the first time in a very long time that I actually hit no tip because I was just like, you put 6 donuts in a box. What am I going to tip you for? It got me thinking. You and I are in the service industry. We pay our bills through it. We've grown up through it. I was a server in Florida and a bartender in Florida for many years where we made $2.13 an hour. So I lived off of tips. I remember having to rush to the ATM to put money in on a Sunday. I wouldn't overdraw my account. I am a big supporter. I think both of us are big supporters of tips, especially for tipped classifications that deserve it. You and I have been very lucky to move up through this industry to become directors of donuts and coffee. And I wanted to bring it up now because I feel like tips are no longer due to service. They're entitlements.
They are. And I honestly don't even know what should be tipped and not tipped anymore. Like I had a pool guy come by and switch up my seal on my pool pump. I'm like, do I tip the guy? I don't even know. I had tires changed a couple weeks ago and I slung the guy $20 because I wasn't sure if mechanics now get tipped. Hopefully somebody's listening to the show to tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I did it anyway, just thinking that's kind of the MO nowadays. So anywho, to your point too, the 18%, I mean, I don't mind throwing 10%, and even bartenders honestly don't get 18% because they're making you a drink. You're going to pay $8 for a beer. You might get $1 on it. So whatever that math adds up to, I know it's not 18 or 20%. I went and got a haircut. Well, the place I go get my haircut at, it's down the street. It's a good spot. My haircut comes to $35. I get every 2 weeks. They take a little off the side, a little off the top. It takes 20, 30 minutes tops. And the minimum tip out for the suggested tip is 40%. It goes 40%, 50%, 60%. So $35, that's what, $350 times 4. So $14 to get a haircut.
That's insane. The tipping, to your point now, it used to be a good tip was 15%. Then somehow it went to 18%, and then it 20%, and now you're seeing 22 creep in. On the flip side of that, you used to not have auto gratuity on anything. And then it was like, okay, auto gratuity goes on a party of 10, it'll be 15%. Then it was parties of 8, 18%. Now it's parties of 6, 20%. Don't be shocked when it becomes parties of 4 and it's a 22% tip, or it's just 22% tip on everything. Businesses do this because I can hire this kid at Dunkin' Donuts for $10 an hour and tell him it's also a tip position. So there is an incentive for the businesses to add it to every little screen that they get. But let's go through a list, and you said you don't know, I don't know, but let's go through a list here and let's determine whether or not we believe the uneducated men tipped or not tipped. Maybe I'll make a cool theme song.
Perhaps play a little game called Just a Tip, just for a second, just to see how it feels.
All right, so let's start off with the ones that we both agree, I believe, are tip positions every single time, regardless of the fact. So that's server, bartender, pizza delivery, hair cutter, barber, stylist, whatever it is, massage, bellman, bellhop, valet, and golf caddy if you're privileged enough to have one of those. Am I missing anything that is bonifiable, a tip position, and has a tipped wage kind of that goes along with it?
I think you nailed most of those. Can't think of any other right now.
So let's go through these ones. Do fast casual, think of like a Subway, Jersey Mike's, Chipotle. Is that a tipped? Should they be tipped?
Should they, or is it? I believe nowadays, anything that is QSR, quick service, does have, if you're doing a transaction yourself, it is going to be now a tip position. There was a time at Subway where you'd hand over their card, they would print out the receipt, and you would sign it, and it wouldn't have the tip out. Now, with automation, it's got the autograt on there, and now it's expected.
Let me rephrase this question. Should the consumer or the customer feel tip this position, or is this like you should always tip a server, even if it's bad service, because there's things on the back end that they have to then pay out on sales to bussers and to bartenders. But from this perspective, should this be one of those, yes, you tip every time type of?
I believe Subway's different because they do prepare the food or the sandwich for you right in front of your eyes. I don't feel bad tipping at Subway. Okay. A place like McDonald's is a little bit different to where they take the order, and that, you know darn well anybody front of the house is not sharing the tips with the back of the house. I don't feel McDonald's, Jack in the Box, other fast food spots should be tipped.
Okay. How about a barista at Starbucks?
I think that goes the same along the way with fast food spots. I think that fits into the same genre.
So no on the barista. Yes, potentially on fast casual. No on barista. Uber and Uber Eats.
Yes, they should be tipped, only because we all know their wages aren't great. Uber drivers are necessary nowadays, I feel, only because parking has gotten out of control. When it comes to drinking and driving, it's a safe thing to do, and they do not make a ton of money on the mileage that they're putting on. So, yes, I do believe they should be tipped, as were taxi drivers for the last 100 years.
So Uber, if you remember when it first rolled out, it was a non-tip platform. There wasn't even the option to do it, and then people would slide cash to them, but they were like, don't tip your Uber driver. It's built in. I think there were some regulatory issues that if they started taking tips, it was considered a cab, but yeah, I agree. You got to tip the Uber. What about the garbage man? Should you tip the garbage man when they pick up your trash?
They can do with whatever they want with your trash. So no, I mean,
So you tip the Uber driver to bring you the food, but then you don't tip the garbage man to take it away.
Hold on a second. Before you insult me on my tipping practices, have you ever tipped your garbage man?
No.
Oh, okay.
I agree with you. I tip the Uber Eats and I tip the Uber driver. I'm just saying, you see how this gets this, I tip this way, but I don't tip that way. This is where it's I think it's gotten out of control. A lot of countries they don't tip, and that's why servers hate foreigners.
In most cities, though, the garbage guy works for the city, and they get state or city wages, so they make plenty of money.
I mean, a bartender in Vegas makes $22 an hour, more than probably some garbage men.
Think about it, $22 an hour, what's that, $40,000 a year?
Yeah.
Who could afford living on
No,
it's
more than that. It's more than 40, isn't it? Anyway. Housekeeper.
Housekeeper at your personal home, or a housekeeper at a hotel? I know some people do, and people will shame you if you don't do it. I'd never have.
Okay. I have. It usually depends on how the room looks, right? And how long I stayed. What about a bouncer or a host at like a nightclub or a restaurant?
I think it depends on if you get preferential treatment. So if the bouncer or host hooks you up with the table or cut in line, then absolutely. That's more of a handshake than it is a tip.
But it's not, hey, I just walked you to the table. Here, I should tip you for doing that. All right. Flight attendant.
I never even thought about that. Do people tip flight attendant? I've purchased drinks on a plane before, and I tried to tip, and they said, no, we don't take tips. Okay.
So no. So I'm saying, because they do serve drinks, they do mix a cocktail. They put a little bit of bottle and mix it in. What about movers? Movers, do you tip your movers?
Actually, they don't mix a cocktail. They bring you the mix, and you have to make it yourself.
Okay. So then that's a no across the board.
Movers. I've tipped a mover.
Yeah, me too. Especially when they're kids.
Especially in this town. I had to move, and this is quite a few years ago now. It was in the middle of July. It was like 110 degrees outside. So I'm like, I'm not going to lift all this heavy shit. Well, after about an hour, one of the mover guys ended up having a heat stroke, so I ended up moving all the stuff anyway.
I remember that.
While he sat in the air-conditioned truck, I was outside moving all my own stuff and still paid the full price.
Oh, that's funny. I've tipped movers recently. I've actually got movers from Home Depot, and I didn't tip them. I mean, I gave them cash. But smog tech, and for those that don't live in Las Vegas or California, smog, you have to do this yearly to make sure your car doesn't put too much pollutant in. But there's a guy that sits in a little hut. He sticks a machine in your car, and there's a big sign that says, we accept tips. And there's a tipped option now on the smog tech.
I've tipped them.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It's not like they're going to make it pass or fail. But what about a bud tender? You know what a bud tender is?
Just a beer bartender?
No, a bud tender is the guy that works at a weed shop.
Dispensary. Yeah, I've tipped. Not that I condone any of that stuff.
No, just for your glaucoma. I get it from my knee. A dancer at a club. Like,
absolutely.
You do tip her.
Hold on. Let's back up. Explain more.
You pay for the lap dance, or somebody pays for the lap dance for you, because guys like us don't have to pay. Do you tip her afterwards?
Usually after the dance, I'll get up and then give her a tip. No.
Different type of tip.
I thought that was a part of the lap dance fee.
The agreement, right? Well, what if you didn't pay for the table dance? Like, I've never paid for a lap dance, but I've had a couple because people always want to buy you stuff like, oh, man, you're awesome. Let me get you. I'm like, yeah.
Well, somebody paid for it, so that's part of the tip.
Okay. And then let's knock these last two out. Dealers or slot people paying out hand pays. Do you tip them?
Yeah, if you don't, you get some dirty looks.
You should. Always 10% of what you win. I know people say, well, I was down. It's just bad luck, man. That's the karma shit that comes back to you. What about a babysitter? Do you tip a babysitter?
Absolutely.
All right, so let me give you this last scenario. You and me, we go out to dinner. We have a $200 meal. I tip $50 to the server. That's a 25% tip. You feel like that's a good tip, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, so now let's just say the same meal is done, but right at the end, I say, hey, we're celebrating a big night. Bring us 2 shots of Louis. You and me, we knock back 2 Louis. Bill goes up $1,000. Am I required to tip $200 more? Did that person do $200 more worth of work by walking to the bar and bringing me expensive? Or is that $50 still enough? Because I'm sure they would have been happy with the $50 before the Louis, but after, you leave a $50 tip on a $1,200 bill and they're going to lose their mind.
So I might have some bartenders mad at me after this, but I don't think pouring drinks quantifies an 18 to 20% tip. That's the whole food service behind it. So that's why bartenders, again, are usually 10% or less. So in this case, I'd probably flip another $50 on the $1,000. And I would think that's more than fair for the 5-minute transaction of grabbing us 2 expensive drinks.
You did $50 worth of work for 2 hours to think that you just made $200 more in 2 minutes because I ordered something expensive. I don't think that's right either. I do think that if that actually happened, your server would be disappointed. They would have been very happy with the $50 and they would have been very disappointed with the $100. That goes back to the entitlement piece that we talk about. It's no longer about service. It's, I'm here. You rang up this bill. You must tip. We have a very prominent influencer here in Vegas that says, if you can't tip on everything, then don't come to Vegas. I disagree with that. Tipping is optional. It is not a requirement. And if somebody does a great job, you should definitely tip them.
Well, the days of tipping on performance, I think, are long gone, too. To your point of entitlement, nobody gives excellent service anymore. People give excellent service because that was in their training. That's in their steps of service. But they don't go over the top to try to earn that tip because they just assume that it's going to be 18 to 20% on top all the time. And they'll give crappy service. And if you don't tip them accordingly, they're going to take a picture, put it on Facebook and say, look what this deadbeat did. I provided great service, which it wasn't. But in their mind, what they do is perfect.
We have to take the blame on that as operators as well, though, too, because when I was a server, it was a 3 to 4 table section. Now they're running 7, 8, 9 table sections. The bar top that used to be 6 seats is now 12 seats. They've had to kind of cut some of the corners when it comes to service because they just have the volume that you wouldn't have maybe 10, 20 years ago. So there's a little bit of maybe they don't provide the service that they used to, but it's also they're being asked to perform at a much strenuous level than in years past.
Then to take another look at it, too, we we work in the industry, we make enough money to be able to afford to do that. There are probably 5 people out there that are going to stiff their servers for every person that's going to tip too. And I've seen it at the property that I work at, especially this week with a group that's in-house, that everybody's getting stiffed. The servers are calling out because they're not making any money. They're going to pay their tip rates on their taxes, and they're making nothing. I've seen the tip outs. It'll be a $200 check, and they get a $5 tip. Not everybody's pulling their weight.
And they got to tip out on that. That's what a lot of people don't realize is there's a buster that they tip out. That's why I said, even if the worst service comes, I'm going to tip because I understand the back end of how that works. And a lot of these people live off of those tips. But that goes back to what we said last week. I said, hey, when you discount rates, when you make things too inexpensive, there is a downside to that. And I think you're seeing that this week. Let's wrap this one up. So Lindsey Graham died, which is very unexpected. He was in the middle of doing a bill. I mean, he's 71 years old, so it's not too unexpected. There's 3 type of reactions. So you have the reaction where he was a great guy. He's going to be sorely missed. I pray for him and his family. Joe Biden came out and said that. Trump kind of came out and said that. Trump kind of made it about him, surprisingly. He said he was 99 out of 100. He had that one instance where he kind of went against me, so he's not 100, like, oh, whatever. Then you have the people that are like, rotten hell. You're the worst person ever. You voted against me. I don't like your politics. Die, rotten hell. You're always going to have that. I don't care where you're at. You're always going to get that. You saw that with Harry Reid. Mitch McConnell is probably going to pass away, or if he's not already. But now we have this third type of person that you see with the internet. And the internet's such a terrible place because it's an echo chamber of stupidity. But there's got to be more to this. A 70-year-old man dies in his sleep. What's happening? Did the CIA get him? Russia, Iran? I think that's just going to just progressively get worse. Is everything is going to be a conspiracy. Charlie Kirk is now a conspiracy. The kid going to trial for shooting him, but it's like, no, it was a bomb in Israel. Lindsey Graham, no, they must have poisoned him. Like 71-year-old man dies. I don't see the conspiracy there, but get your thoughts on where we're heading as a society in that regard.
I mean, we're doing it to ourselves now that the White House is validating a lot of these things, right? Like aliens are coming out and saying, well, we can't tell you that it's true, but it's not false. And even the JFK assassination, they're kind of saying that there's more to it than what went down. But I think we're validating a lot of conspiracy theories, and it's just going to get worse because of it.
We know 2 JFK experts that have had a very candid conversation, and they'll tell you there's more to that story. But yeah, this White House in particular, but it started, I think, with the whole Russia thing when Trump got elected. It was like, no, it wasn't Trump, it was Russia. No, Hillary Clinton sucked and people didn't like her. And he was a populist candidate that said things that people hadn't heard from a presidential candidate. But then he came out and denied everything. And now everything's a denial and a denial and a denial. And he recently came out this Thursday and gave a speech, probably one of his worst speeches that he's had in a long time, where he just started talking about all this integrity stuff for the elections. And it was stolen again. And he pointed to some things that really didn't make a lot of sense. And I think that's just, as a country, where we're going is everything now is going to be questioned or going to be a conspiracy.
And that goes back to even Michigan. I read something to where I think Trump lost by something over 100,000 votes. And now they're saying that they've discovered over 100,000 double voter registrations. So there might be some truth behind it.
Yes, he came out and gave a bunch of information, like 5 different claims. And before it, you had people like Elizabeth Warren, Adam Schiff, Keem Jeffries, your typical Democrats before the speech saying he's a liar. Remember, you can't believe anything he says. He's the most corrupt president of all time. He's going to come out and lie. And he's going to lie. And he's going to lie. And he came out and he said all this stuff. And in the middle of it, I was watching Twitter and people were like, this guy's lying. He's lying. And then he declassified all the information and made it available for everybody. And they quickly went from he's lying to, oh, this isn't nothing. This is old news. We knew about this. Don't worry about that. No, this is not a big deal. So at some point, you know that there's something there. Probably not as big of a bombshell as he thinks it is, or he made it out to be that he had to go on national TV to do it. Just release it. Have a press conference, release it. But it was like a prime time event. But yeah, there's something there. It's probably not either side. They're downplaying it and some are hyping it up, and it's probably somewhere in the middle.
Well, unlikely. Just like the Epstein files.
I think the Epstein files are bigger than you think. They're just never going to get released.
Since we're talking about politics, I can't get enough of this new Vermont senator candidate, Ashley something or other. Ashley Webb. I have watched her interview several times now, and I have tears in my eyes when he says, I will be honest and not lie to anybody, but that he's dressed as a woman.
Well, he says that he has menstrual cycles and that he bleeds out of his rectum.
Yep, and that he's got female organs, which he's had several x-rays and CAT scans, whatever, and yeah, there's nothing that says he's got female organs. But he is for the people, and he tells the truth.
Yeah. This is what's really sad about that. This isn't like a county commissioner or some type of local. This is a United States senator. United States senator, and they put him on stage as a viable candidate for one of 100 positions in the United States. These are one of the most powerful roles because your vote's so important. Unlike the House where there's 417 of them, there's only 100 senators, and this is the guy that they put out there.
But did you hear what his qualifications were?
That he's crazy?
No, he's a songwriter and writes his own books.
Well, he does look like Meatloaf, so I wonder if he's in a Meatloaf cover band on the weekends.
I honestly hope he wins, just so that laughing stock and people that are slightly on the left side, I feel, would say, you know what, I've had enough, and kind of come cross the line back over to the right side, because it's going to be a circus act.
They are just going further and further into the crazyville. And make no mistake, the right that goes into this crazy white supremacists and the Jesus thumper, Bible thumper guys. But most of the people stay here in the middle. But it seems the left is just, not only are they moving to the left, they're embracing the craziness. Like, oh yeah, this is normal. No, that's not normal whatsoever. I'm sorry. He can be whatever he wants, but this is a United States senator. And this is who you're putting out.
I think there are some on the left that do hug the line a little bit. They're the ones that probably agree with a lot of the Republican or right side morals, but they like their free shit. So they're going to vote left just to get their free shit because they don't want to work or they don't want to work 40-hour weeks. But I think a lot of them are going to say, okay, this is too much in Looneyville for me. So I'm going to tap back over to the right side. I'm going to go back to work and earn my money and write my own books.
Let's talk about our favorite subject, Canada.
Canada sucks because it's smoky.
Canada sucks. And now they're polluting our air. Now, Trump probably went a little far on the deep end by saying that we're going to add insult to injury by charging them tariffs because they're polluting our air. One, we should ridicule them for it because they're not taking care of their own business, but we need to fly some planes over there with some water and help them out a little bit.
Yeah, so Trump wants to tariff the smoke, and the Democrats are trying to get them signed up to vote. But to your point, no, that was stupid. You got to provide aid. You don't blame people that have their land on fire. A lightning strike caused it. But that smoke traveled all the way, destroyed my great state of Minnesota. It was pushing into New York. It was really a bad thing. But the crazy thing is, and it was funny because you and I in a chat, the minute that you posted about the smoke, the left goes climate change. And you're like, wait a second, hold on. It was lightning. Yep. Climate change. Like there's been fires, there's been hurricanes, there's been floods. These things are not new, but it's every single time it's, oh, yep, climate change. So I went and looked at it. Here are the 5 biggest fires in North American history by year. So the biggest one was 1950, then 1919, 1910, 2004, 2020. So you can see it spans literally 100 years. It's not climate change that is causing this. Now, the right will tell you that they don't manage their forests and they don't clean it up and they don't do control burns, and the left will tell you it's because of us and climate change.
A big drought right now because of climate change, which
and cow farts. I don't know anymore. Yeah, Trump was wrong. The climate change is real, but it's not what's causing this.
I will say, living in the state of Nevada, we've had our fair share of smoke issues because of California wildfires. I think we joined Trump's stance on this, and we started suing Californians for giving us shitty.
I don't disagree. Here's an interesting fact. So in Vegas, I was watching the news last night, and they've always said, here's our temperatures and the average temperature. And it was always kind of above average. For the last 2 years, this summers have been very mild. We've been in the 90s and in July, both years. I've never seen that. Usually it's 110, 115. We were at 85 degrees in Phoenix yesterday for a high. Vegas, I think, was 101. Okay. So the news took off the average because you know it's going to be below average. So for all the times it was above average, they were just, oh, we're above average. We're above average. Now all of a sudden, when we're below average for 2 years in a row, it's gone. And if you remember, it was global warming, polar bears, we're going to die, ice caps. Now it's climate change. The media is always going to be dishonest and push a narrative. It's interesting that now that it's cooler in the last couple summers, you're not hearing about that being the case. It's hotter than normal. Interesting.
Well, it'll be interesting when you do your research here to see if they did in fact pull off the average, because I still see that here.
I just watched it last night on Fox News. Yeah, maybe it's a different channel, and maybe I'm just one of those old guys screaming at the wind. So the largest fire ever in history, this is a massive one, is 1974, the Australian bushfire. This was so big that it burned 15% of the continent. If it was the United States, it would burn the whole entire eastern coast all the way down to Florida into Ohio. Burned 240 million acres. The next biggest fire, like 50 or 60 million acres. So this is a massive fire. Not a lot of climate change in 1974.
Were there a lot of casualties in that one? Or
yeah, it was pretty bad. It wasn't one of the worst. There was one I was reading on that was casualties because it went so fast through a town that nobody was prepared for. But yeah, this is a big one.
When I was a kid, we did have a big forest fire that wiped out a lot of acreage down the street from my dad's farm. He was pulled down to start helping create fire breaks by cultivating the land on the other side before the fire got there. So you're tearing up all the grass and stuff so it can't catch on fire. Well, we almost had that fire completely controlled, and then there were deer and rabbits that were now jumping the road, caught on fire, and then spread the other side of the road on fire. So now it took off again because the wind started blowing north, and the entire forest on that side of the road was dissipated.
I don't know what's worse, being like drowning or being stuck in a fire. I can't imagine either one.
Yeah, both would suck. I'll take neither.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Let's talk about Nate's favorite segment, Hedlock.
Headlocks of the day.
Hedlocks. All right, Bob, I got 2 games for you in the WNBA. Monday at 5 o'clock, we have the New York Liberty visiting Dallas. Dallas is a 1.5-point dog. I'm going to take the home team. The Liberty have been on a bit of a schneid. And then we have the Minnesota Lynx, the team from your great state and probably your favorite Minnesota professional team. They will be in Seattle. In Seattle, sorry for anybody listening from the Washington area, but your team sucks. Minnesota -10. They will cover by probably 20. And those are your WNBA headlocks of the day.
So the British Open, just called the Open, is going on right now. I had Sam Burns to start the tournament. He was plus, I think, like 3,300. So $10 paid 300. He was going into the lead with a 2-stroke lead. Right now he's falling behind. SW Wu is your current leader. Cameron Young is in second place, 9 under. He shot like 9 under today to move up the board. So pretty impressive. Burns still has a chance, but he's fading fast, unfortunately.
It's a slow burn for Sam Burns.
Ooh, that's not too bad.
ESPN, don't be stealing my stuff.
So Christopher Outlaw left us a reply and said that Tom Brady sucks and was not the best quarterback of all time. Yeah, I know. I invited him on to the show. It just made me think.
Tom Brady sucks. 7 Super Bowl rings and even a few Super Bowl losses.
Yes.
And the GOAT is not the GOAT?
He basically said it was because of Gronkowski that he was good. That's not true. He was 4-2 in the Super Bowl with Gronkowski, and he was 3-0 without Gronkowski. So he's pretty good with him and pretty good without him. But it got me to thinking, who's the greatest NFL player? I can tell you this, it's going to be by generation because every generation watches their generation. So if I was to ask my dad who the greatest NFL player was, he would say Jim Brown. And if I'd ask my grandpa, he'd say like Sid Ligman or some shit. I don't know, some old dude. But if I was to ask you, we're about the same era, who the best football player, both sides of the ball, was, who would you say?
Before I go into that, and I got a very good answer, and you've probably never heard of him, but I will say, since Chris Outlaw is such a big fan, for those that like craft beer here in Las Vegas, Bad Beat Brewery is one of the best in town. So if you haven't tried it, you should go our friend Chris Outlaw at Bad Beat. Now, back to your question. The greatest NFL player of all time, meaning that he could play multiple positions at a high level, goes to a guy named Bronco Nagurski from the great state of
Minnesota.
That's right.
Positions did he play? He's a defensive guy, right?
Defense, offense, a fullback, which was a running back back then. I believe he played in the 40s or 50s. He ended up playing with the Bears professionally, but back then, college players were probably more popular than pro players. But Bronco Nagurski, if you look it up, and I think recently, even in Sports Illustrated, had him listed as the greatest player of all time.
I don't know him well. I know his name. I haven't seen him play. So for me, it's going to be Barry Sanders. I think Barry Sanders was the best football player I've ever seen, the most electric, without question. He retired because the Lions sucked and they would not provide him with a fullback or an offensive line. He was tired of getting beaten up, but he was the best player I've ever seen.
Don't get me wrong, he was a great running back, but as a player, you think he was a better athlete than Bo Jackson?
I mean, Bo Jackson only played 3 years or 4 years maybe, and he did the Tampa Bay Buccaneers dirty.
I mean, he doesn't have a long legacy, but I mean, he was great at baseball, great at football. He could play any position. I mean, he could probably even kick a 50-yard field goal if you asked him to.
Bo Jackson was fantastic. And we're talking about just football players. I think Barry Sanders was better. Barry Sanders was the most elusive, game-changing. Bo Jackson was a big, fast, punishing running back. One cut, go, and just beat everybody. Barry Sanders made people miss. People 3 times his size. You thought you had him dead to rights. 2 people are going to tackle him in the backfield. The next thing you know, he's in the end zone. And he juked 9 people on the way there. So, yep, I'm going to go with my guy, Barry Sanders.
All right. We're all entitled to our opinions.
We wanted to talk a little bit about stocks in the show, and we haven't. We talked a little bit about SpaceX, and we'll just go on this very quickly, and then we'll wrap this up. But SpaceX IPO'd at 130. It shot up to 120.
Well, hold on a second here.
Sorry, 220.
There you go.
So it went from 135 IPO price to 220. It's now down to 124, so about $10 below the IPO price. This potentially could be one of the biggest companies in the world if it merges with Tesla. At this price, I'm very interested in the stock. And I want to see if it gets to that $100 range. That's what they call a psychological range. If it bounces off of that 100, it bounced off of the 135 a couple times and then fell. So you're looking for support. Was the 124 the support? I'm thinking at this point, this is a stock I got my eye on. Nate, are you interested?
As you know, I don't have much of a portfolio, but to me, it makes sense. Everybody rushed in, I think, when it first hit the market, and people overinvested. Normally, you're going to see that bit of a snide, but people aren't seeing the quick return on investment, so they start selling, investing in something else because they may not have endless funds. And then once you see more space launches, it's going to take off.
I think this is what we call in the stock world, which I'm a big part of, something that you would long, right? So you would take a position on it and you would forget about it, and you're not looking to trade it, you're looking to own it. At this price, it's worth maybe a starter position in. I think I'm going to start my SpaceX position probably this week. A very small, maybe a couple hundred shares, nothing major, but I think I'm going to be a SpaceX investor.
Well, best of luck to you. I hope you're rich, and then we can take this podcast to the next level. Sky's the limit.
Oh, wow.
Let's shoot the moon.
Okay. All right. As long as there's not a Uranus joke in there, I'm okay. So that kind of wraps up the show. I was going to go into the midget story, but we ran a little long. Maybe we'll talk about the little people story. Maybe we'll talk about that at a later date. I keep pushing it off. I should tell it. It's pretty funny. It does have to tie into San Diego, but I think I'm going to join Bobby's fun party. I got his brochure. We might be the top
fun party. The party. The party.
Okay. Anyway, if you'd like information on the party, please leave us a text or drop us a line in the comments and I can send it over to you. But I think that kind of wraps it up for us. If you'd like to educate the uneducated men, please let us know. And if we got anything wrong today, especially with the tip, we missed a tip position that we should be tipping, or if you feel like, hey, this is a tip position now, get with it, boomers, then drop us a line.
To leave a comment, you do need to have Spotify, though, if I'm correct.
Yeah, Spotify, but there's also comments you can leave on YouTube, or you can leave one on Apple as well. There was some guy left us a mean one on Apple. I tried to block it, but no, it wasn't one of our friends for sure. Dickwad.
Jackass.
Thank you so much, Nathaniel.
We'll see you next week.
I don't know what you're doing later on. Maybe we can go to Jeans and grab a couple soda pops.
Yeah, hey. You betcha.
All right.
American heroes. Bob and Nate, true American heroes. Bob and Nate.